Good morning from Sacred Space. It's 11:42 on the 15th of April 2023. I'm making this video because I cannot obfuscate or deny truth, and truth is subjective to those experiencing life in the kaleidoscopic myriad ways that humanity experiences the current paradigm and obfuscates, lies, denies, or recalibrates and learns to live with a new reality that is not comfortable or pleasing or good for the soul, quite frankly. So I haven't felt well in recent weeks, and a lot of that is probably contributed to or exacerbated by stress. I've been selling off, my chattels, bits and pieces in the last couple of months, which has been stressful and just in that alone. But everything fell into perfect alignment, like dominoes falling, and I was able to sell my dolls that were quite valuable in order to pay for the brakes to be fixed on my car. And so all that worked out perfectly on Tuesday this week. Today is Saturday. So that should have been a huge stress relief and a release and a joyful thing, but it came with kind of an aftershock of, I don't know how to explain it. Like the tremors that come after a earthquake, or the ground writhing and resettling. I haven't quite come into full calibration or balance yet. And my daughter Crystal and my best male friend Jared took me out for my birthday on Wednesday night, which was lovely, but I was not actually I wasn't sick, as in I didn't have a flu or any overt signs of illness, but I wasn't, I guess, grounded mentally, and I should have been, because my car had been fixed the day before and everything had flowed perfectly, and yet I was still not settled. And now bear in mind, every day I immerse myself in hell. I read comments on YouTube on Dr. John Campbell's site about the adverse reactions of the COVID vaccines and the immense tsunami of death and illness that we as a planet are immersed in. And if that's not bad enough, I then watched videos about the current threat, because they have to threaten us with something new, right? Because everyone's onto the COVID malfeasance. Now they're threatening us with the end of the world as we know it because of an AI super takeover, when AI becomes sentient and its intelligence increases exponentially in the thousands. Now that's all quite feasible and a very real threat. But I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted at how we, as human beings, as mortals and as spirits, are being tortured on a daily basis. And I know something about being tortured because I've had to live in poverty for 28 years because of malfeasance of my government and abusive men and abusive family members. 58 years of torture I have lived through. 58 years and almost 3 days. So my other best friend, who I will forgive because she's exhibiting what appears to me to be neurological problems or the beginning of dementia, and it concerns me greatly because, like me, she has suffered decades of not the best of mental health, although she didn't end up a psych med patient like I did for 15 years because she had a loving, supportive, large, extended family. And she's been like a sister to me. We're very close. We are very close. But this is the third time I've noticed a complete cognitive dissonant, almost divide in her behaviours around me or towards me. And I don't even know how to put it into words exactly. It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. So I'll explain what happened because I'm trying to work it out, how I should feel about it. And it's not like me to not know exactly how to feel about something. So I'm wondering if maybe if I'm suffering some neurological impairment or if I'm in fact dying because my responses are not, well, how does one respond? I don't know how to respond. So my beautiful friend visited me yesterday and she showered me with gifts. She often brings me food, groceries, puts food literally into my mouth, literally feeds me. And she's a very kind woman and she's nurtured and protected me since my marriage broke down, supporting me emotionally, and in recent years literally feeding me, making sure I have enough food. And you know, when there was the toilet paper hoarding and I was ill and couldn't get to the supermarket and there was no toilet paper, she even brought me toilet paper. Like, this woman is an angel and I love her dearly. But there's something terribly, terribly going wrong. Terribly wrong. So yesterday she arrived showering me with presents. She brought, pavlova and a box of chocolates and little box of Daryl Lee chocolates and food for Beauregard, beautiful dog yogurt and little meatballs for Bobo. She just spoils me lavishly, and I'm very grateful. And she pulled out of her car a trolley that you use to move things with, upright trolley. And she said that was my birthday present because she knows I'm Superwoman and I carry far too heavy loads, which I'm not supposed to do since I don't have a uterus. and I risk getting hernias, and it's dangerous. But I live alone and I don't have a man, which is a good thing, trust me, that I don't have a man, because the world is not the same. And I've always had difficulties with relationships with men. I attracted men who were dangerous and life-threatening, and I'm still very much, even at this late stage in life, in recovery from that. So she brings me this wonderful trolley, said that's your birthday present, and we hug, because I hug her, I hug all my friends. And then she looked visibly distressed and was fluffing about. And she says, I need to talk to you right now. And I said, no, we need to put the cold things that you brought straight away in the fridge, because if I leave it out in the heat, the bacteria breeds and I get terrible tummy issues. I said, so if you bring me food, I'm grateful, but I need to put it straight in the fridge, because I've been struggling for weeks and weeks with very bad tummy issues, which is why I'm probably wrung out and exhausted and ill, quite frankly. And I won't go to the hospital because I'm not safe there, and they threw out my patient file. So there's no cross-referencing of my condition anyway, which is tantamount to murdering me. I actually went there with this particular lovely friend, and basically was called a liar until the doctor realised that I actually was telling the truth, that I've been a long time patient at that hospital. So anyway, there is that. So this has all come to a head since January. So I'm not surprised that I'm not coping emotionally right now. There's been a lot of horror involving my body, my sanctity, my sanity, my health, and I no longer have trust in doctors or hospitals or in humanity in general. Well, I didn't have a lot of trust in humanity after my horrific experiences since early childhood, and that's completely understandable given what was done to me. But anyway, so my friend arrives, visibly distressed and agitated. Put the food in the fridge. I said, right now we'll sit down, tell me what's gone wrong. And she proceeds to tell me, to my horror, because she knows I remain unvaxxed, and by choice and by determination, because I did not agree with this rollout of this thing from the very beginning. I've had all my vaxes, including a Hep B vax, and the Hep B vax, when I had it in 2012, impacted my health almost immediately. I knew I had been permanently altered by it. So God knows what they put in that. So that was a gift in a way, because I knew when this COVID regime came out not to trust it. So my friend says to me, I've had a visit from my neighbour and that's why I'm late. And I said, oh yes. She said, yes. She said, my other neighbour's dog has mange, which won't heal, and she's beside herself. So I suggested feeding the dog raw eggs, whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing. I don't think it can hurt, the extra protein and, fresh eggs. So she said yes, and she said my other neighbour came to tell me that they have COVID, he and his wife. And she says, so, and this is where the neurological damage comes in, because it's nonsensical. she says to me, so as a consequence, because they have COVID and I'm so worried about transmitting COVID or mange from the neighbour's dog to Bobo and to you, I have had a shower and scrubbed myself in pyrethrin. I've even put it in my shampoo and washed my hair with pyrethrin. I try not to laugh because it's not funny, but it's also kind of insane. So she tells me she's scrubbed from head to toe so as not to transmit COVID to me, which is very sweet and loving and caring. But I look at her and I realise she doesn't understand, even after all this time, all the information we've been given out, all the things I've been fighting against for 3 years now, that COVID is a virus. It's not a mange. It's not something you can wash out with pyrethrin. And she knows that I've not been well in recent weeks. She knows. And yet she brings this to my door. She said, I had to see you because it's your birthday. And, my birthday was 3 days ago, but she couldn't come because I spent it with my daughter and my other friend. And it's important to me to come and see you. And you know, that's love. Like, I get it. She loves me and I love her too. Don't get me wrong. I love her very deeply. But to come saying she's been a close contact with a COVID patient and then to bring me all these gifts and then to hug me and to show me her hair's wet still from the pyrethrin wash without any cognition that she's exposed me to potential great danger is insane. So we sat under the tree. We don't sit close. And we talked about things, and she often goes on tangents and repeats the same stories over and over and over again. And sometimes it's irritating, but then I think, well, I do that too. You know, we're all living under the most extraordinary stress, and we're not young, you know. I'm 58 now. My friend is in her almost mid-60s. So we sat for a few hours and she said, I'm so happy to be here with you and I'm so happy to be in your garden. And, you know, she genuinely means it and she genuinely does enjoy my company. And we ate the lovely pavlova she brought. And Bobo played at our feet. Actually, he was annoying, went to play his fence game where he chucks the ball under the front gates and makes me run and pick it up. So he was a pain in the bum, really, but that's normal for Beauregard. And we sat, and I said to her, I'm not feeling great, but then I never feel great. I haven't felt great in years. But I have days where I feel, you know, reasonably okay, and I get a fair bit done. And I've actually been working very hard on a pendant I'm making for her birthday. I even worked on it on my birthday on 12th of April, most of the morning until my friend Jared arrived in the afternoon. So I've been pushing myself a bit hard, wanting to, you know, finish little projects, which I take great pride in, that I'm able to have fits and starts with my energy levels. And when things are going well, when I've got the motivation and the determination and the physical strength, I'm able to make a few lovely things, right? which does my heart good, because there were years and years and years when I was just atrophied, ill, in bed for days on end, and I had no life at all. And that was when I was a much younger woman. So I'm doing relatively okay at 58, going through this COVID epoch that is malfeasant, perverted and evil, and an inversion of reality, and is quite frankly terrifying. So my friend eventually, after several hours, departs. I said to him, I'm going dancing tonight. And I had questioned myself whether I should go dancing this week, because I've been not depressed per se, but there has been a feeling on my spirit of this intense heaviness, like I'm carrying a load on my shoulders, like an oppression actually. I sometimes do get that feeling when someone, unbeknownst to me but that I know, has died. And sometimes I find out later on who it is, but I don't know if it's that this time. It might just be that I've worn myself out with my advocacy on YouTube comment sections and Facebook comment sections, and my jewellery making, and my not feeling particularly well, and general stress levels, as well as the not so great mental health at the moment. So my friend leaves, and I think to myself, well, if she's given me COVID, how will I know? I think it takes a few days to incubate. So I ring my friend Jared, and I said to him, Lynn says she's been exposed to COVID, but she's come to visit me. He said, is she crazy? Why would she do that? I said, I don't know. I said, I want to go dancing. I said, everyone's vaxxed but me. I said, so I'm not actually a threat to them. I said, but I'm not sure what to do about spending Sunday with my friends down the road, because we're supposed to visit the elderly mother who's fully vaxxed. But it's not the point. People who are fully vaxxed are still catching COVID, so it makes no difference, right? And it's endemic now, and there's no escape from it, but there never was really an escape from anything that these governments have perpetrated on the people. So I decided to go dancing, but honestly, I didn't feel right in my core. I was able to dance for a few hours, but I came home early. I actually left about 1 o'clock, quarter to 1 I think I left. I was just so exhausted and drained. And the band was nice. It's a band called Sex and Chocolate, 3 Māori men, and they play R&B, which it's not my usual style of music that I like to hear all night long, but it was pleasant and nice, and I danced to it. So I came home feeling wrung out, really, quite wrung out. And look, I'm not so worried about dying of COVID, because I've died of a multitude of things. Literally have died a few times, more than a few times in my life, including in recent years. So it's not death that I'm afraid of. It's living in a world where people are so detached from reality that they can continuously deny and obfuscate and lie and gaslight. I messaged my friend last evening before going out because she was sending me memes, you know. She sent me a meme, something about the next time my neighbours try to talk to me, I'm going to stand out naked and talk to a tree or some funny thing like that. And I thought she was admitting that it was a bit awful what her neighbours did, bringing COVID to her door so she can bring it to my door. So I replied, yeah, I said, thank those cunts for killing me. She replied with a question mark. Didn't know who I was talking about. Complete denial. So I replied, yeah, your neighbour Steve and his wife who has COVID. So then she gave me all these excuses. Oh, no. I stayed miles away from them. Belinda's self-isolating. There's no risk of you catching COVID. Just not what she told me in the afternoon in deep distress, right? Complete opposite to what she'd said. And I'm making this video because I have not yet caught COVID. And I don't know if it will kill me or if it will be a very mild thing. And having long-standing respiratory issues, it's always been a risk factor. But it's not the fear of catching COVID that I'm making this video. If I catch COVID, I catch COVID. I've had far worse, dangerous, life-threatening diseases than that in my day. Except the difference with this one is it was deliberately designed and orchestrated and perpetrated on the masses in every country in the world. So it's a weapon. And how does one fight against an unseen weapon that infiltrates our bloodstream, our nose and our mouth, our eyes, and how does one fight against governments that promoted vaccines that were just as dangerous as the fucking COVID? I watched a video last night of a man who just lost his wife. A BBC report, actually. The reporter was as cold and as stony and as unhuman as a robot. After hearing this man's grief over the loss of his wife, she was still sitting there going, oh, but it's safe and effective. Quite frankly, these people are dangerous and should be removed from society permanently. Anyone who lacks empathy for someone who's lost a family member, a wife, a husband, a child, an adult child even, anyone who lacks any moral decency is not human. I'm living in a society infiltrated by people who have seeded their humanity in the thousands, in the millions. There's a man on Dr. John Campbell's video. I think he's a bot, quite frankly. When you confront him, he starts rationalising in a kind of an almost illogical way. So they've infiltrated our social media with bots. We are under control of things that are not human. And the people, the flesh suits that were still humans, have infiltrated themselves, and somehow it has interfered with their thinking processes or their actual pineal gland or their soul. They're no longer human. Anyone enforcing or inflicting a toxic cocktail that is now proven to be dangerous on their own babies and other human beings has ceded their humanity and their right to call themselves human. They are already part cyborg, or if not cyborg, their souls have left their bodies and they are just automatons without soul, without integrity, without heart, and without honour. And there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing. I have to continue to exist in this reality until the time comes when I succumb to either COVID or the stress of living in this COVID reality, which is starting to look like the stress and the trauma alone is killing me slowly and invidiously. But on a happy note, my car is fixed. I just need to rotate the tyres and get a balance done and move on and keep moving on, and hoping in the innate goodness of the few humans in my inner circle and disregarding the rest. It's all we can do, live day by day. And I need to avoid people who blatantly lie to me and gaslight me, especially when they know I'm not well and I'm feeling vulnerable. And are not protective, I guess. Well, how can you protect anyone from this? You can't. It's everywhere. As another scientist on Lex Friedman's video says, Moloch is everywhere. And my own Jewish community gifted Moloch their own children for the vaccine program, the COVID vaccine program that I am against. And I begged them not to. I begged them vociferously, don't do it. Don't give it to your babies. Yet here we are. The equivalent of throwing them onto a jellied fire. Done quite willingly for their health. And now, because I was outspoken, because I fought against it, the worm is turning and I'm being brought with threats of COVID and death. by someone that has always been trustworthy in the past and always been loving and always been generous. And I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to think about that. So, just for today, I'm going to hold myself carefully contained. Death comes to us all eventually, but I never expected it to be like this. A full immersion in a horror of hellscape proportions that I have been surfing, just surfing across, trying to keep myself safe, my remaining pets safe, and my core family safe, which is my daughter, Jared, and this other friend, who are my only remnant family. And at the end of the day, no one is safe. And that's a horror that we have to learn to accept. So, I will keep dancing for as long as my body allows it. I will keep advocating on social media for a better, safer world. My advocacy prior to the COVID regime was on the subject of child sexual abuse, and I have seen in recent days even that the people I fought hard against, the perpetrators, famous perpetrators in Australia here and in Israel, have finally been brought to justice. So my fight that lasted in that instance about 10 years is finally can be put to bed. But the COVID battle is only just beginning, and I'm waiting for people who have lost their family members, their lovers, their friends to rise up. But everyone's keeping their head down, heads firmly shoved in the sand, hoping it will go away. And they're not acting. They're just not. They're not fighting back. Their children are dying and they're not fighting back. Their wives and husbands are dying and they're not fighting back. What has become of humanity? So I'll end this video now because I'm curious to know, when will we start rising up as a nation and fighting back?